So thank you, Anne. So now what we will do is move on to part one, scaling up innovation procurement from a policy perspective. And our chair for that session is Robert Miskuf. Please come up, Robert. As I mentioned before, Robert is CEO of Pedal Consulting, project coordinator for Build. He's part of the PROCEDIN project, and he's chair of the IPTF. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I'll put myself here so it's not so formal. I really like the format and approach. Thank you very much for all of you being here, and Anna, thanks a lot for the presentation, because it was so dense. I mean, so many takeaways to bring home. And I also need to give really applause to you on what you're doing, because when we met a couple months ago, first time in Brussels, we, like previous presidencies, the issue of innovation procurement was really not so visible. And then you came, and then innovation procurement really got the important spotlight. So thanks a lot for that. All right, so I'm Robert Miskuf. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And I will be walking you today also with my dear colleague that I will present a bit later through the session one. I would like to share with you the experience and the, kind of the birth of something that we ended up calling innovation procurement task force. It's been of a journey. I mean, 3 years ago, when we were still writing proposals, you know, it's like a movie, and I can't believe it's coming towards the end, but I hope it's not the end, because also thanks to this platform we will be able to further nurture our ideas. But you know, it's like in really these milestones, you get the project funded, you celebrate, then cut, you are through the grant agreement preparation phase, then you find out that there are some sister projects from the project officer. But it was your predecessor, right? You were not there since the beginning, then you jumped on a train right after, I guess. So we started kind of, you know, suspiciously wondering who it is, we cannot get in touch with them yet because contract is not signed. And then all of a sudden we start talking with the first 3 sister projects. We said, okay, let's have these informal meetings once a month. And then we actually, you know, while during the proposal writing phase, we are kind of enemies and competitors, then we realize we are really facing, you know, united front, aiming for one common goal, which is scaling up the capabilities of public procurement, you know, different angles. And then, yes, we were like, okay, let's call ourselves somehow. So this is how the title kind of came through. And again, next cut, and we are here in the final event, working together. I really can't believe that. And it's been really since the first, you know, phase. It's been almost 3 years, even though the projects are funded for the period of 24 months. But the story journey started way before. So when we started talking, we were like, okay, so look, there are so many overlaps, and we need to do that. You need to do that as well. Yes, so let's team up. I mean, we really started, and the math was not really working, because 1 + 1 all of a sudden was really more than 2 when we combine the forces. And we wanted to make bigger splash with our webinars. We didn't want to work in isolation. We wanted to make sure that our deliverables, our publications are really acknowledged and kind of pushed by other sister projects. And the next thing you know, it was not 3, it was you know, snowballing effect. We are also involved there, we also know them. This initiative is super relevant, and we brought them on board. Important part is that it's really bottom-up initiative. We didn't have in the beginning any hidden agenda or visible agenda. We just wanted to kind of put ourselves out there and see what comes out of it. And you know, we really managed to organize some light activities, you know, sharing each other's invitations and helping out with speakers, but also tailor-made combined trainings, webinars. I was asked to. Okay, so we're really here now. Thank you, Daniel. And also this event here is kind of sending the message that in spite of the fact that our projects are reaching the end, we do have this special platform where we really started liking. We have a logo, we branded it, we set up the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to kind of establish ourselves a little bit more in a serious way. It's an open door platform, and luckily, we can already say now that our projects, the 3 founding projects, are ending towards the end of September. But because of the continuity, new projects, new partners, we will be discussing the future, and which is bright, I believe, for the Innovation Procurement Task Force and the related projects and initiatives. So just to give you a bit of a background how all this was created, really bottom-up approach, open door policy, fresh mind, open mind, and I believe that really working together with the common goal, we can reach much impactful events and missions that we all have. So that's Innovation Procurement Task Force. We will be also discussing in the later today. Sorry for that. Later today, the future. I'm interested. We are for the ideas that you may be coming in, because I said if you would like to be part of it, you are 1 email away, 1 phone call away, and we're talking. Okay, so that's Innovation Procurement Task Force. What is this session about? It's about policy perspectives on how to scale the procurement of innovation, and we will be having 5 great speakers plus me, and we will be hearing really just condensed 5-minute sessions on various insights from the projects, and not giving you the work package, duration, milestones. Our goal is really give you the real meat on the bone. And then there will be coffee break, as already signaled by Louise, followed by super interesting discussions. We will be having several discussions, provocative topics. I'm looking forward to that, and the entire session will be facilitated by my dear colleague from a Build project, project manager at Civita Estonia, Anna Tuc. And I think with this, we're good. I'm giving the floor back to you, Louise.
Thank you. We have a slight technical problem. Bear with us. Paula, is Paula around? Can she come and help unjam the laptop?
It wasn't me. It wasn't. I didn't drop it.
Give us a moment. Yeah.
Fine. Good news, the technical problems appeared, as at each and every event and online meeting there has to be some technical issue. Works, okay. Robert didn't manage to break this thing, and this is those are 2 most important things in the upcoming, I would say, half an hour. The clicker, the mic. So this is the power. This is whoever has those 2 things has the power. And I'm here just to introduce, just to give the floor to other people. And as nice as this job is, it has one challenge, is how to pronounce the names of people that are going to take the stage. So all those 6 of you, if I made a mistake, I'm going to try really hard. But please forgive me if I make some mistakes. But let's start. The first presentation will be given by Laura Sánchez from SILO, who will discuss the foresight of public procurement of innovation based on her experience in the healthcare across EU-funded projects. Then we're going to welcome Valentina Schippers and Frédéric Amiand that will present highlights from recommendations that were from the public from the policy paper that was published lately, and I have to say I'm really curious about those insights that are going to be shared. Then Robert will be given the mic and the clicker, and let's hope he won't break it, to share what we found in the exercise of mapping needs and the challenges that are faced by the frontline procurers. We will move to a slightly different scene of dual tech and procurement with a slight focus on security perspective by Menno van der Eerden. Thanks for the stump up, I needed it. Last but not least, we're going to welcome back on scene Louise, giving a bit of perspective on the human factor in the public procurement, and we've been already hearing quite some things about the capacity building, so that's going to be her focus. My job will be to try to keep you in the frame of a 5-minute presentation. I'm wearing the hat of the bad policeman now. So without further ado, Louise, Laura, sorry, I mixed up things. Please join this part of the room. From the very back.
Okay, so can you hear me? Also those in the back of the... Okay, here? The other one, yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, so here, yeah, I'll stay here. So thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation to come and present the lessons that we've learned through all the years that we've been promoting and implementing different innovation procurement projects at my company. It's a pleasure for me and an honor to start with the first presentation, part 1. And I'll do my best to stick to the 5 minutes rigorous slots which I've been allocated, promise. So to start, we've been told to present ourselves and the logic and rationale behind the insights that we will bring to the audience. So that's what I will do first. My name is Laura Sánchez. I am senior manager at Silo. And Silo is a consultancy which is based in Madrid, working on innovation, policy, design and development, and also in innovation project management. Within the frame of innovation procurement, we have a very wide track record. We've been implementing innovation procurement projects since our foundation more than 10 years ago. And so far, we've implemented over 300 innovation procurement projects involving pre-commercial procurement, public procurement of innovative technology, open market consultations, policy design for different governmental bodies at different sectors and different levels of the administration. We also have worked for different governments from Latin America, involved Brazil, Uruguay, also for the Inter-American Development Bank, and we are also a player in the innovation procurement funded projects. So we do have 6 projects in execution now and 1 contract with ASMEA to deliver a training program in innovation procurement for the next 4 years for different contracting authorities across Europe. So about my presentation and the very straightforward messages that I'm going to bring. This is about the lessons that we've learned, as I've said, alongside all the years that we've been working in this area. And I promoted a kind of reflection in the office to understand what were for ourselves those key success factors that most of the successful projects have in common. And we've come to 4 key messages that we want to transmit to you, to the audience. The first one, and one of the most important key factors that supports successful innovation procurement projects, is proactive problem solving For us, that means working on anticipation and an orientation to problem solving. And that is pretty much anticipating to the critical problems before they occur or before they even emerge. This is attitude, and this relies on people. People that need to have a strong leadership and also very well-skilled project management skills. So this is mostly about people, and I'm going to come back to this a little bit later. The second success factor is to make informed decisions. That can only happen if those very well-skilled project managers have a deep understanding of the use cases of the innovation procurement. So that means accessing to data and reliable data, because that's the only way to measure if the action, if the project is successful, if your policy has impact, which is in the end what we need. The third success factor is to promote innovation ecosystem, establish that structure, sustain that in time, and create a community of very well-connected actors that have a mutual understanding of each other and are able to respond quickly to the demands of the public sector. Of course, policy alignment is critical. This is the very first step, to have a policy in place that is aligned with your needs and also promote a long-term vision. These do not necessarily need to be, they are not in order, but these are what we consider very key elements. And once we have identified them, what would we recommend based on the learnings? So the first thing would be to set an innovation procurement task force, setting up the government structure, the governmental organization, and selecting and recruiting a group of individuals that must not have risk aversion and should be pro-experimentation. And when you have these individuals, it's important not to lose them by offering incentives, capacitate them, and offer them legal support. The second thing that we would recommend is to implement a robust monitoring and evaluation mechanism to assess the impact and effectiveness of innovation procurement initiatives, so access to data. That should be part of the policy, and of course there is not one recipe that fits for all, because every market sector and organization is different, but there should be a mechanism to assess information once you start with the policy. And regarding the ecosystem or the engagement with different stakeholders, we would recommend creating a comprehensive framework to promote this kind of interaction between different actors, setting the mechanisms, the tools, and the structure so these people can meet regularly. We could set like working groups and launch regular calls to promote from time to time their interaction. And last but not least, we consider very important to develop a strategic roadmap for innovation procurement involving future-focused investment, including in emerging technologies, so you can plan ahead what you would need in 2 years' time or whatever, because today is already tomorrow. So that is for us the major learnings and major recommendations that we have. Thank you very much, and looking forward to the next speaker.
Thank you very much. I think our next presenters are ready and they are coming to the center of the room.
So, very happy to see you all in this wonderful room in Brussels. My name is Valentina Schippers. I'm coordinator of Urban Agenda Partnership on Innovative and Responsible Public Procurement and chair of Eurocities Working Group on Public Procurement. And
Hello everyone, my name is Frédéric Amiand. I work within the International Affairs Department at the city and metropole of Nantes in the western part of France, and we are a member of the Urban Agenda on Public Procurement.
And today we are presenting a position paper developed by partners of Urban Agenda Partnership on Innovative and Responsible Public Procurement. Urban Agenda Partnership is an initiative for European Union, and our position paper consists of 10 key recommendations that we would like to stress that public procurement as a strategic tool can address a lot of challenges public authorities in Europe are dealing with, such as, for example, social challenges by creating new jobs, for example, or recover economy, or, for example, environmental challenges like boosting of circular economy or energy transition. And today we are going to explain and mention a few of those key recommendations. Yes, thank you. For instance, key recommendation about that EU policies should encourage and support creation of pretender ecosystems. Why? Because if you have insights, if you work in ecosystem and have insights from different perspectives, and from different stakeholders, from universities, from public authorities, from market parties, social partners in the, and you can also get more insights, and that can boost innovation. Or key recommendation, offer resources to acknowledge the specific needs of stakeholders of different sizes. What do we mean with that? For example, small, medium, and huge cities, or local authorities, region, or national public bodies, but also universities of these different sizes, smaller and bigger ones, smaller, medium size, but also large companies. And so why it is important? Because they have also different needs. Let's take an example of small enterprises or small innovative startups. They probably would need more support and more capacity building while submitting tenders, compared to the large companies who already have the whole departments there, they have as a full-time job to write these tenders, while small companies do not have capacity and knowledge how to do that. So now I would like to pass word to Frédéric.
Yep, thank you, Valentina. So innovation is also about social procurement. I don't think I need to convince anyone about that in the room. As a city, we've been doing that for 20 years, so not that long ago compared to some other countries. But we were still convinced that this is one of the important ways to procure. And one good example of how we can face some kind of limits when it comes to EU regulation is corporate social responsibility. And I want to take a very concrete example that we've been facing, trying to push back some limits and got burnt, legally speaking. So in 2018, the French highest administrative court, the Conseil d'État, challenged the legality of one of a selection criterion when it comes to the performance in terms of social responsibility about a procurement for a printing job. So something quite mundane, printing job, in which we decided to have this kind of a social responsibility performance criterion, which weighed for 15% of the total score. Our call for tenders indicated back then that this criterion will be assessed on the basis of general factors such as anti-discrimination policy, gender equality commitment. Well, you get the global pictures, not only linked directly to the procurement. So we knew it was some kind of a risky move based on the EU regulation, but we tried. And we got challenged by the court. I just put a quote from the court itself on the slide, but I realize it's a bit small for you in the back of the room. So basically, the idea for the court was there was no sufficient link between this selection criterion and the subject of the contract or its performance conditions. I think as professionals, we understand that it was risky, but this is how we got convicted. So if we just look at the global picture now, we have major twin transition at EU level that we are supposed to achieve, which makes sense. And we are not disputing that as procurers and cities, but it's also quite important that we will be able to support the most virtuous, the most engaged company when it comes to corporate social responsibility. So that's why basically with this recommendation, we also have some kind of a question, which will be like, why not the EU regulation could evolve to let us reward in a very balanced way without harming the single market, obviously, reward, but the most virtuous companies when it comes to CSR as a global criterion, not just linked to the subject of the contract itself. One concrete example that is coming more and more from companies that we have by our city is why not reward, for instance, the companies who are perfectly aligned with the Paris Agreement. That's something very global, not necessarily linked to the object of the contract, but we are starting to hear more and more because some companies are doing this specifically. So that's one example that I wanted to take. I won't talk about the second one. We can pass the next slide because if we have questions, we can go further. But the point is, when it comes to policy, we cannot conclude this presentation without mentioning the post-EU election contest. So we have very clear demands as practitioner, if I may say. A new parliament is probably a new opportunity to finally have back an intergroup on public procurement, public services, or service of general interest, in which we could discuss with the members how to change a bit the 2014 public procurement directives. The same goes for the Commission, and we hope that maybe a new commissioner will have in its portfolio the public procurement clearly stated. We are hearing a lot of goodwill when it comes to come back on this 2014 public procurement at the moment, and we hope this is a new door that we could open with the Commission as well. And some very practical things. The whole position paper is in all of your tote bag as well. You can scan it with the QR code. And we just wanted to share with the last slide. Yeah, thank you. Can you just move to the next slide, please? Thanks a lot. It's like a show. So we just put one address, one email address. So the one on the e-learning modules, it's one example of what we've been doing with the urban agenda. It's a good tool which has been used by 2,000 people, if I remember correctly, so far. So it's just a way to upskill some people who are comfortable in English, and we are considering a tool to have it accessible in several languages. So it's just to close my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Just a small technical thing for speakers, if it's possible to stay in one place. Due to the recording, because we would not like to lose anything. And also to keep a mic close to your mouth. If you're using the upper one, also to get close to it so we don't lose the sound of the recording. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think that that was a very good point. We don't want to have half of a person in the picture. But Robert, it's your time to come back to the main scene, and with your presentation, we're going to go from this horizontal perspective to very down to earth and very close to everyday life issues. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Is this a good spot? Okay. Here? All right. Okay, there you go.
We have a quality check.
Okay. So, thanks, Sylvie. I'm going to present you very briefly, very briefly, because I received your message. I should hurry up. One of my probably the top 3 favorite activities that we actually conducted within Build, and it was to sit down, take our time, and discuss, empathize with public procurers. And it was really an eye-opening experience. Basically, we try to forget about all the theory, all that we know from our previous projects, and just talk to procurers as people. And we try to understand, we ask them really basic questions. Like, and you can see them there. Maybe if you cannot see them then, like, first of all, we just asked, maybe it may sound very philosophical, but it was super powerful and impactful, and it fed our work in later stages in the project. So we try to understand who you are. Who are you, public procurers? Obviously, many interesting things came up, like busy people, responsible people. They are super busy people. Have to finish and start the entire project. They have a lot on their shoulders. But also, what do you see? What do you see in your office? What do you see happening? Maybe in other, if you are a municipality in other city. What is happening in other cities outside of the country, and we received super interesting insights that were really just, some of them were really mind-blowing. What do you do versus what do you need to do? And there are so many discrepancies, so many expectations versus really cannot deliver this. I already have so many things to do. I'm not properly trained, and we heard really valid, not excuses, not complaints, but facts. And also, like, what do you say? Is something what you think is not exactly what you say? And these were the questions that we asked them, and try to emphasize and put together the map that you can see in order to really understand them at the deep level, at the human level, and that helped us to shape our value proposition in the next phases of the project, when we wanted to involve them, call them to our trainings, shape our agendas accordingly. So we didn't have our agendas rigidly written in a stone during the grant agreement. We kept it open because of this exercise. And what we also learned, the emphasized deliverable report is available on our website. If you are interested, Build website, please go and see it, because I really recommend that. There are some things that are obvious, but we have forgotten that they are obvious. So procurers have tendency to learn from the peers. We organized a series of staff exchanges for public procurers. I mean, the people in between, consultancies like us, like Pedal Consulting, are useful, but if you close them in one room, they get much more if they learn from their peers, from within the country or outside of the country. And okay, insights and conclusions. Basically, real cases is definitely something that works much better than just hypothetical scenarios. Working with excellence centers is definitely something that was recommended on many occasions. But it takes two to tango, as we say. You need on one side of the equation, let's say, encouraged procurers, and also courageous suppliers of innovation. So basically, these hands-on trainings that we had within Build and within PROCEDIN, and also other projects, hopefully contributed a little bit to push the public procurement of innovation agenda and skills the right direction. And again, when you have someone in the room who has done it, who has done it and been there, and also openly, genuinely say it's not working. I really like the case just before that you got sued, and and it's so real, and it's life, and we don't just necessarily showcase all our successes, because we equally learn from our mistakes. And when it comes to policies, basically these things that work and don't work are the inspiring elements that should be picked up and worked with by the relevant policymakers in the room. And yes, there will be now opportunity with the new European Parliament, European Commission, to revise these 10-year-old directives that we are working with right now. And yeah, the last slide, we gave it the brand, you have a B2B, business to business, business to consumer. You have B2G, business to government, but at the end, it's business or people to people model. So let's not forget it, and we will be able to, when we connect, we will be able to also do much better procurement of innovation, PCP, PPI, you call it as you want, but we will have better lives, I hope. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Robert. Apparently, it is very difficult to keep the 5-minute pressure. So I'm not going to talk too much. Menno, the floor is yours with the totally different perspective.
Thank you very much. Yes, good morning. My name is Menno van Eerden. Click myself. I'm working for the defense staff and a department which is called the Future Relevant Operations with Next Generation Technology and Thinking. Well, probably someone got promoted on coming up with the name. And actually, I should say I was working, because from this week onwards, I work for another posting in defense. And I would like to share with you some considerations from the security perspective. First of all, the security perspective. Well, what is it all about? Basically, you can compare it to a cat and mouse game. It is all about getting the upper hand, about gaining a strategic or tactical advantage to an opponent or an adversary. And you can also call the success factors, you can to quantity or quality, and that goes together, because in reality it's not only quality. The importance of innovation is that it's outsmarting basically an adversary, but that's the connection with scaling up. You also need mass. If you look to the Ukraine now, what is happening there? Ukraine is standing its ground, more or less, and that all has to do with the qualitative weapon systems that are delivered by Western countries at this moment. And you see, on the other hand, the mass from the Russian army. If we go back in time, you look to 44, 45, then you see that also quality, so innovation on itself is not enough, because the German tanks were far technologically superior to the Allied tanks, but it took the Allied tanks in one of the last operations took a ratio of 1 to 69, so 1 German tank to 69 Allied tanks to win the operation. This was the operation at Overloon. So that also has to do with exploration of innovations in the security context. You can get the upper hand, you can outsmart your enemy, but of course an action will call for reaction, and at a certain time an innovation will expire, so you have to continuously update your innovations. And that has to do with experiments. So what we need is a continuous stream of experiments, a continuous stream of large-scale experiments in a broad spectrum of technologies, with also a big speed, because you want to have the upper hand continuously. And also it comes with complexity, because if you have a continuous stream and continuous knowledge building, then you can also get to more complex innovations, and more complex innovations, then you get more to the strategic advantage. So that's what the success factors in the security context. What does it mean for scaling up? Well, I call it the scaling up sweet spot, because what we need is actually to utilize the best of all the stakeholders that should be part of the scaling up community, so to say. I also heard something similar in the other presentations, especially from Anne. But what we need is the flexibility of the startups, because they're still flexible, coming up with new ideas. But at the same time, we also need the original equipment manufacturers or corporate manufacturers for their robustness and their scaling up capacity. We need the government organizations to drive the innovation by financing or co-financing, or at least making sure there are finances available, and also taking governments. And we need the knowledge institutions like universities, but also R&D institutes to validate what comes out of the marketplace. And what we at least need is a long-term focus. we should really see this as a reach-back capacity to frontline units. So when you're in a security context, you always have to think of the worst-case scenario, which in essence, in ultimo, is war. So you have frontline units which can reach back all the way to these communities, so that they're continuously adapting, basically. So it's an important adaptive capacity. At the same time, we should take into account these supply chain dependencies, because geopolitical dependencies, for example, in the chip industry, well, you don't want to have any Chinese chips, for instance, in your supply chain, because that makes you dependent, and that's a strategic disadvantage. And at the same time, when it comes to innovating, you see now that we run into a lot of compliance and certification issues already at the starting phase. What we need is we need a sort of test environment in which those compliance and certification issues are not issues, but that you're free to test, so that in a later stage you can see what is required to certify certain projects. And that concludes my brief.
Thank you very much. Louise is already here, so I don't have a job to do even. Jumping up.
Thank you. So before I start, because I can, and I will be quick, I promise, Danielle, key recommendation 4 of the position paper, to me, is absolutely central. That should really be out there. Mazzucato talks about tilting the playing field, and if we can't tilt the playing field on environmental and social issues to benefit the firms that are being the most progressive, what can we do, right? So that's super important. And similarly, linking it through to the empathy map run by the Build project, Esme Peters and I did a series of interviews as part of our PROCEDIN project. And much as Anne said, the people who were getting on best with innovation procurement were not putting PCP and the like front stage. It's not that they didn't do it, but it wasn't front stage, and they were thinking about innovation procurement in very, very broad terms. But what I'd like to do today is something that's close to my heart, very much my personal agenda, is to make a comment on the professionalisation agenda, and particularly the competence building part of it. Because I think that what we have is some very nice work around competence frameworks, training initiatives that are going along with those frameworks, but there's more we can do. And when we look at the various initiatives, are we creating sufficiently appealing jobs to attract the best talent? And are we trying to attract talent from the most appropriate sources? And as I mentioned, this comes from a personal perspective because I can't even read it from here. But I've been in procurement for a very long time, and my first degree was in geology, right? So I think you can do procurement. I then did all the training for the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. But I think we can come from all sorts of different fields into this area of innovation of public procurement. And then I got involved in capacity building and building competence frameworks and assessing people against those frameworks it was London Underground then. More recently, in 2020, I joined the University of U.Twente. That sounds like a bad joke, doesn't it? But yes. And there I do public sector and healthcare administration, but I'm working in a team of colleagues who are all about strategy, entrepreneurship, innovation, and so on. So very much more the business side. And then we started the Horizon Europe project, and then we did these interviews that I just mentioned. And all of these have been very important for shaping the comments I'd like to make now. So what I'd like to put to you is, what do we need in the next decade? What people do we need to be doing public procurement, but especially the innovation side of public procurement? We could go for this top slice that I hope you can read better than I can. We could say, right, we want our recruits to be majored in something like law or finance or public governance. And of course, they need a little bit of innovation and strategy and business knowledge to help that role. that, I would suggest, and forgive me, all the lawyers in the room, okay? I'm not a lawyer. I think will take us towards compliance-driven. And what I would like to suggest is if we're trying to focus on value creation, then maybe what we need is the arrangement we have in the bottom layer, where the major attributes, the major skill sets of the people we're trying to bring in and develop in their early careers are around innovation, strategy, and business. Now, of course, along the way, they must understand the relevant law, they must have an understanding of the finance and public governance as well. But it's what do we look for centre stage. And so when I'm involved in educating business administration students, what I'm thinking about is some of the things that are captured on this slide. So what we have here is 4 boxes. If I start top left, thinking about it from the employer's perspective, I think we can do more about role design and recruitment. Who do we hire? Who could we hire? Under the preceding arrangements, we ran a workshop and people in the room were talking about the job that they had worked straight after uni, they'd gone into this role. And they had public admin colleagues, legal trained colleagues, urban planners. Not really business and management so much. What entry requirements do we set? University of Twente is very close to the German border, and we used to have quite a lot of German students. And I asked one of them, are you going to work in this sector? So he was doing a master's in business admin with a strong specialism in purchasing, and he wanted to be a purchasing professional. And he said, well, I can work in a German hospital, but I can't work in local government because I don't have a law background. I thought that was a terrible shame. This is someone who aspires to be a purchasing professional. So are the requirements that we're setting the right requirements? And are we setting up the jobs in a way that really align with the performance that we're looking for? Moving on to top right, I think we also need to challenge business students' preconceptions. Most of the undergraduates that we recruit, they start business admin thinking they're going to work in a very big organisation, or UT specialises in entrepreneurship, so maybe they want to run their own business. They don't arrive thinking they might do business for the public sector. But when we point out just how hugely valuable that business is and what the potential impact they might have on society, environment, social outcomes, then it gets more interesting. So I'm always saying to my very business-orientated business colleagues, we're not here to administer business, we're here to teach people how to do good business well. So it's a much broader concept. And then we want to make sure these students actually understand what the opportunities are. And again, that's one of the deliverables that we've contributed through the preceding project, is to try and help spread the word to these students. And finally, the routes for growth and development. I was looking back through some of the materials about career development, and the presumption is really you're climbing the hierarchy. But in a lot of places now, it's about moving around between different roles, moving across projects. Yeah, you've been in that role for a while, you don't necessarily get promoted, you go to a fresh space where you can bring your experience and learn something new. And I'm not convinced that we're that well set up to be able to work with that flexibility. And yet, if we could, then I think we could really make the most of it and bring out that sort of opportunities for initiative and entrepreneurial flair, which doing good business is important, and also very much based around the environmental and social agenda to help improve that. That is me done.
Thank you very much. I don't know how about you, but my feeling was that we have a very information-heavy presentation, and 5 minutes was just to scratch the surface. But the good news is that we're going to share the presentation, so whatever you want to double-check, you will have opportunity. Now it's my job to invite you for a coffee break, and I would love to see you back here 5 to 11, so let's take 15 minutes break to reflect on what you've heard, and then we will be back with the discussion. Thanks a lot. Meaning that's a great moment to bring coffee or tea, take your seat, make yourself comfortable, and get ready to 30 minutes of interaction with our panelists. We've heard some Foresight insights. We heard policy paper recommendations. We zoomed into the needs of challengers, of public procurers. We explored the innovation in the context of security, and we had a snapshot of the professionalization of in public procurement. And now it's time to move to a discussion, in which main roles will be taken by 5 distinguished guests. But it doesn't mean that you won't have a voice. We would like to, of course, hear the here Anne, if I may invite you to the scene, Minouche, Lieve, Vasilis and Maria. Your opinions, please join us. I hope you will be comfortable. So the idea for this part of the meeting is first to hear some comments and insights from our guests here. But then I would like to also hear from you. I would like to hear your comments. I would like to for you to have a chance to also share your experience and your thoughts. But let's distribute mics first. Okay, so you can. I think you can still operate with 2. And let me start with asking each of you for a very short comment, like max 3 minutes. I'm very bad in timekeeping, that's what I realized, but that's for another time. So up to 3 minutes for you to share your thoughts on the first part of our meeting today. Any surprises, any particular inspiration, anything you would like to point out from the presentations we've heard in the first part. Who has the mic? Yes. Yep.
Should I start?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Happy to see that you're all so enthusiastic about innovation procurement and that you want to bring it to the next step. I heard several times it is picking up. We see it in our countries, coming more and more onto the agenda. But there's still a lot of work to do, and that's where I would say that under the next commission, if we want to make a big leap, we should really make it a priority, so that every procurer thinks about innovation procurement as the natural thing to do, and it's not a strange thing for these geeky people who are interested to take risks, but it's the normal thing that you modernize your public services with innovative solutions and you help innovative companies to reach that goal. So that's my main takeaway, and that's also my personal view for the next commission, that we will try to make that happen.
Thank you. Vasilis, I think it's natural to move to...
No, yes. First of all, I'm glad to be the gender balance here, in this panel.
It also caught my attention.
So, yeah, I realized that innovation procurement is a feminine, let's say, issue. So, but, yeah, women's power,
Some studies on that might be.
But yeah, echoing what Lieve has said, is really encouraging to see that more and more discussions and projects and on innovation procurements are taking place. When we started dealing with innovation procurement in 2012, we were, like with Lieve and Carmen, that we were in DigiConnect, that we were we felt the loneliness of the action. Now we are more and more, we are discussing more openly about the issues regarding the mainstreaming of innovation procurement. As Lieve said, innovation procurement should not be normality in the daily business of every procurer, because as we as buyers, when we buy goods or services for as customers ourselves, would like to buy the most innovative things on the market that are tackling our needs. This should be the way that public procurers, public procurement officers are thinking. They are implementing more and more innovation procurement that will have a greater impact for the European economy, for the services that the citizens that they are enjoying in their daily lives, but also for the scaling up of innovative companies coming from the European Innovation Council. Focusing more on the supply chain, it is really key to look into innovation procurement as a way to facilitate the uptake of innovation and the commercialization of the wonderful results of R&D that we have in Europe. So I don't see any other way than more innovation procurement in the next programming period, as you said, but also in the policies and the activities of the member states, the regions, and the cities.
I feel a lot of enthusiasm here as well. So it's not only on our side, but Vasilis, as you said, it's been a great development in last years. And Anne, you were nodding.
Well, I can only say that we saw in Flanders when for the elections, like all kind of intermediary organization, they try to push topics to the political level, to the future government. And for example, one of the employers organizations, so how do you say that? It was, all the employers, all the enterprise federation, one of, they passed like 5 key messages to the government. And one of the message was to indeed shift from subsidies to procurement, because for companies, it makes a big difference. So I think by repeating the same story all over again, you started, I don't know how many years ago, and perhaps we can create all together a little bit more and make it happen. But that's also it's also the companies who are asking for more.
That's a very interesting angle that I think I would like to explore a bit more. Noosh?
I think I'm a little bit different perspective, more of the innovation side. For me, so many questions popped into my head listening to the presentations. That is, when is something an innovative procurement? Or should we have one definition of innovation? And who is the one who's going to make that definition? What kind of regulatory how do you say that? Rules and regulations should there be on European level, but also on national level, and for me, specifically on city level. So it was very, very interesting to hear. I felt really the urge to learn more the practical side from the defense ministry for how you're going to do an R&D and actually work long-term together, develop, co-create, maybe even, well, for me in Amsterdam it would be more like, how can we collaborate, not procure, but how can we collaborate with all the parties that we need to create a city that's future-proof? So I had many questions. Also talking about, are we scaling up innovative procurement, or are we scaling up innovation with the use of innovative procurement? So for me, I had so many questions. Looking forward to discuss all these topics.
So it seems like Minouche we could switch places, because I would have something to say about the co-creation with challengers and procurers. But let's give Maria the mic, and then Vasilis, I will come back to you.
So thank you for the invitation, and I completely agree with you. Many questions, many food for thought after these discussions. For me, it was very surprising and very nice to see how different projects get together to create this task force and to do this event. I think this is very good, and this is something that is really pointing to the scaling up and leveraging of all the initiatives and the funding. For me, it is very important the part of the network and the part of the ecosystem and how different organizations can have to be on board on that and support, because it is essentially key. It is also very key to have more data and more information available, collected, combined, where not only innovation procurers, but also innovation providers can really feel safer to participate and also know the roadmap they will need to take. I think there is a lot to do with the innovation providers, and here we need to merge these two activities and how we support through the purchasing power the innovation, because at the end research is key, but also impact in citizens, patients, depending on what we are talking, is essential, and to create this value to transform cities, to transform systems, and to be more resilient and sustainable all in all. So I think there is a long way, but happy to continue exploring, and this is a good initiative and starting point.
Thanks a lot, Vasilis. You wanted to add something, right? Before.
Actually, at the beginning, when you presented some slides, I saw that the definition of the personas you had, and it was really interesting to see that you have attributed the role of strategic procurement manager to a Greek person, Livia, if I remember well the name. It is something that I mean, like coming from Greece and knowing the Greek procurement sector, this role does not exist, and especially in the Greek procurement environment. And it is something that should be mainstreamed in all EU member states. This is key. This is key. This is the essence of looking into procurement as a strategic tool. And this is something that we have to have in our minds, not to use procurement in a short-sighted way where we buy what we need, but when we plan ahead, we look into our needs, we plan way ahead, and we try to tackle strategic goals through procurement. So what you did, I mean, I don't know if you did it on purpose or not, but to attribute this role to a widening country, a country that is not so, I mean, advanced when it comes to innovation procurement is really important. And I'm looking also at Justine now. I mean, perhaps, I mean, like structural funds could play an important role there in order to be able to enhance the capacity of public buyers in those countries to start, that are having a lot of purchasing power through the structural funds, to start also looking into purchasing of innovation, but also tackling strategic goals through procurement.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those first thoughts. As I said, there is also time and space for you to comment. So if you have something to say, something you would like to share, something, just raise your hand, and we'll either me or Daniel will bring the mic. So it's okay. Yes.
Maybe Lydia works in Finland or in Netherlands. Yeah.
Perhaps I saw the Greek name, and I suppose that she was working. She's working in Greece, so yeah, that's why my comment. If she's working in Finland, then yes.
Okay, Steno. Choose for running.
Normally you sit at a conference, so you're the lucky one. Well, thank you very much, Vasilis, and thank you so much for this conference. This is extremely exciting for us in the Commission who play that game and try to push for strategic procurement. I used to be in DG Grow before, and we had a very strong agenda for supporting strategic procurement. So using the directives and using all the flexibility of existing directives to support strategic procurement. I have no idea about plans or possibilities for revising the directives, that I don't know anything about that, if there is a discussion about that. But in any case, there are already a lot of tools and flexibility and guidance and good practice repositories and support tools across the Commission. They are maybe scattered, but you can find them. And now I speak from the DG Regio point of view, which is my new job for the last 3 years, where we are supporting, again, the managing authorities of structural funds to do procurement well, with integrity, and with the strategic outlook. So we are the capacity center, the administrative capacity building unit, a competence center. We support managing authorities, so that layer that is between the EU funds and the buyers themselves, right? So the buyers are for us the beneficiaries of the EU funds, and 48% of EU structural funds are spent through public procurement. So we find it extremely important to indeed spend it right, but spend it also with this strategic outlook. And if so this is completely to the point, Vasilis, that you just made. And we work with all our partners in other DGs and services. And if I may advertise now, because I would like to very much invite you to a new project that we are just starting, which is how to support the uptake of strategic procurement, so green, social, innovative, let's put it like that, by the managing authorities of structural funds. So if you are interested, we would very much like to have your support, to have your input, so that we can promote it further and put to the tools for the managing authorities. Some of them are very knowledgeable and very advanced, and I guess these are, the type of actors that we have here in the room, but some are very shy, they think they don't have the means, and we want to also show those shy ones that you have the low-hanging fruit. You can go for it and do that first step that someone was mentioning. I think Anna was mentioning at the beginning, right? Do the first step. It's like quit smoking, take up public innovative procurement. Do the first step, and you will be better at it the next time. So, yeah, let's keep in touch.
Thanks, Houston. I think you will have a lot of people interested in more in the project that you just mentioned. Any comments? Any more? Yes, please.
Yeah, just another question. Is it solved when we have strategic procurement managers? Because I can imagine, just from a city perspective, there are not a lot of people who are capable of doing this. So then you get to education. How do you educate the right people? Are it the procurers, people who have a procurement background who are actually going to do this? Or are this the program managers and the project leads who are actually going to do that and have to be educated in procurement? For me, most of the time, it's project and program managers who take initiative and procurement follows as a means then.
So it's not like the procurement specialists are initiating; they are more delivering the tool to.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's the way it should be, but that's how it works in Amsterdam.
First step is to start thinking of procurement as a strategic tool. So who does this job? I mean, it's not so important within the organization. It's the mind shift that it matters, to see the procurement as a tool where you can achieve strategic goals, innovation, social, innovative, social, or green goals. And that's why that it really matters in the end of the day, to view this tool as a strategic one.
I think we will. Yes, I see that hand raised. I think we will leave this. We will end this discussion with more questions than answers, which is perfectly fine, because that's the good starting point for the networking over lunch or something.
Just to add to what Vasilis said, I think it is very important to accept the public procurement as a strategic tool, because for now, the public procurement is accepted something that is just administrative process, how to spend money, but it is separated from the social policy. It is separated from the building directorate in the municipality. And when we try to collect all these people on the same place and say, okay, now we should work together, they say, I'm a builder, so here I need a building. And for this, who are in charge of the air pollution, for example, they say we need to buy something, but there is no collaboration between different aspects. And I think this is very important, that all the people, never mind that they're public procurement, public officers, etc., they need to have a little bit knowledge about the process in the public procurement, how it works. For example, now we have issues to explain the experts that, for example, for the heat pumps, how to organize the tender for buying this, because they say, okay, I need this heat pumps. They say, okay, this is what you need, but we need to have the process to reach this and maybe to improve quality or after that the maintenance or something like that.
I think, but I think I fully agree with that. What we see, I think that many public authorities could learn perhaps from private companies in a mainstream bigger company. The sourcing manager or the chief buyer, let's say, I don't know what the exact title is. He is in the, how do you call it, the direction committee. It's a really strategic position. Whereas I see in all the public authorities we cooperate with, it's not a strategic position. It's like, oh, people initiate things and then, okay, we put a lawyer on it and he will help us with tendering the thing, which is, but it's not a strategic position. And that's a pity, because if you see that, I mean, I think 30-40 billion a year is spent in Flanders. And I think the cost of spending is, I think, estimated on even 20-30% extra. The cost of just managing all the procurement, I think there is a big, I mean, how do you call it, margin to improve the efficiency of handling all these procurements and also monitoring the impact of these procurements much better than is the case now. There is absolutely no spend analysis carried out in I think the mainstream public authorities, I think here in Belgium. So we do not know how we spend our money and whether or not the money spent is has the correct impact. They're just continuing procuring things the way they used to do it 20 years ago.
That's maybe a bit very negative, because
yes. I put it quite sharp.
I'm more positive. Next Tuesday we will have the final workshop of our Innovation Procurement Observatory, who has done, the tour around Europe, looking at how have policies moved to encourage innovation procurement and how much have investments increased. Does that follow with the policies that are encouraging them or not? And I do see really amazing things in certain countries where you would not even expect it. Like, for example, in we're talking about widening countries having to catch up, but some of the widening countries are actually taking the lead these days. You look at Poland, Czech Republic, they have put actually not only innovation procurement, but also green and social procurement as the normal thing to do for every procurer. In every procurement, he has to check whether he can procure a social green and something innovative, and if yes, he has to do it. It's a must. It's the strategic procurement has become the normal thing there. We have countries like Germany and France discussing, should we make allowing variant offers the standard way in every procurement? Because we hear often that innovative companies cannot even make an offer because the procurer has over-specified the procurement to ask for the well-known solution that he has been buying for ages, and innovative companies with more efficient solutions cannot even make an offer. So we have all these kind of things happening in different countries who are really discussing how to change the whole system to make innovation procurement become, in every procurement a normal thing. So that gives me hope that there is the willingness to make the next step.
Thank you, Louise.
Thank you. Building on all of those points, I think there is an issue. You talked about learning from the private sector. Some of the cases that we've come across in our interviews and so on through PROCEDIN are very successful, where someone has come in later in their career from the private sector into a municipality and really been able to make a difference. But at the end of the day, if they don't have enough staff, doesn't matter how strategic they want to be, how much they want to think innovation, they're on such a treadmill for getting the contracts out the door that they haven't got that extra capacity. So I think sometimes there's an issue around it's a particular initiative, you can come in, you can staff up, but to make it every day, then there's a staffing limit. And if they're under financial pressure to cut their staff, they're in a, they won't get out on that pathway.
That's very true, but then you have to ask the question, why don't they get enough staff? Because it's not the top priority somewhere. Huh? If it would be a top priority, they would get extra staff. So the first thing to do is to make it the
and
top
it's not
priority.
innovation procurement specific. This is public procurement at large. Yeah.
Yes, I see more a combination on a hybrid role in someone that it will be in innovation, someone that it will be in procurement, and then in the middle, and also someone from top management that will really make sure that there is a strategic objective, there is a strategic agenda, there are some KPIs that top management or top companies or municipalities or hospitals need to gather, and then drive that and include that in the unmet needs identification and so on and so forth, and then linking some of these things together, because at the end there is a digitalization, there is some harmonization of data, so we need to combine all that. I think this will be a very nice position, but in between 3 different layers.
Thank you. Comments from the other side of the scene? Not at the moment, okay. What you see on that slide were questions that in our head were, or the areas that we wanted to tackle. And I think we organically did it. Apparently, the direction of discussion covered most of those. As we are, and I'm saying it with a heavy heart, we're heading to the end of this discussion. I would like each of you to give a final comment on this perspective that's supposed to come on the future. So how, from your perspective, the successful scaling up of innovation procurement should look like, or what would be your understanding of successful scaling?
Do you want me to start? Yeah, successful scaling for me would be that innovation procurement becomes the normal thing, that it is, in the political agenda, recognized like that procurers are not punished if they do innovation procurements, but that they're encouraged to do so, and that this ripples down through the whole organizational structure behind it, to staffing people, to giving them the resources to do it, to looking for strategic projects where to implement it, and so on. But if you've already done innovation procurements, then also try to bring them to the attention of the policymakers, because that's typically what helps to convince them. Brown theories, they don't understand, but concrete examples of how an innovation procurement helped to solve something, how it make things more cost efficient, because everybody's having budgetary problems these days, how it brought companies, helped them to bring things to the market. Please put those things also forward. And one opportunity is to apply to your European Innovation Procurement Awards. That will give you recognition and visibility across Europe and in your country, and hopefully help innovation procurement thrive more.
Very practical tips, thank you.
So I've prepared a little bit this question. So for me, is to create the environment where this initial investment or this power of procuring can flourish, can be more sustainable, and can scale up. So to create really the place to grow, to attract new stakeholders, new ways of funding, and also new ways for the companies to really develop the innovation. Sometimes they need time, they need to adapt their innovations into the needs of the procurer, and also to create synergies in between a more mature procure and a less mature procure, that they can have different powers of procuring. And finally, to create new alliances in between regions, countries, and across Europe. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think for me it's to smaller the gap between procurement and innovation. It's a very big gap, but to understand each other a little bit better, it helps in collaboration. And going more to a sort of a value-based procurement, where you collaborate with all the parties that you need, which isn't just corporates and SMEs, but also I think the future will be to work with cooperatives and commons and how to work with these really small parties.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vasilis. I think for my part, we will continue our work here in Flanders. We will continue, well, assisting in all kinds of innovation procurement trajectories in the hope that then, well, all these seeds will start flourishing and all these contracting authorities, like Lieve said, will well, start doing it as if it's a normal thing to do. So let's hope we can make that happen, that it is mainstreamed all public authorities, Flanders and also in.
Yeah, as said in the beginning, I'm keeping the gender balance here, so ladies first. So, in my view, the scaling up of innovation procurement would have a three-dimensional approach. The first one is the innovation procurement at organizational level. Echoing what Lieve has said, it would be great to see innovation and strategic procurement in general as a normality, as a normal thing in all organizations in Europe. This would mean that procurement officers would be invited to take part in the strategic decisions of the organization, because everything boils down to actual implementation procurement. So procurement officers should be a part of this exercise. This for the organization. Then for the supply side, because it is really key. Innovation procurement has proven to open, to pave the way, to open the doors to innovators in Europe. So I would successful, let's say, scaling up of innovation procurement would open even more the procurement markets to innovative SMEs and startups in Europe to access these procurement markets, so to have more jobs for in our continent through this approach. And a very important dimension, the citizens. We would like to see better and more financially favorable in the long term solutions being bought or being developed through R&D procurement. So we would like to, as a citizen, to enjoy better services from the public sector using innovation procurement as a tool to purchase or develop innovative solutions. So three dimensions would be key to me when it comes to the scaling up to innovation procurement.
And that's also a very good way to sum up different aspects of the discussion we had today. So thank you, Vasilis. You made my job way easier. Thank you very much for your opinions, for the questions, also for the doubts you raised. And that's Jorge, comment. Yes, of course.
Well, two things. First, I'm very happy that Lieve said that it's going to be a priority for the next FP, because knowing Lieve is going to happen. So we can all congratulate ourselves that there will be more innovation procurement in the next FP10. Now, second thing, coming to what Vasilis said, I would like to share an insight. We were in an event some months ago, and there were people from the procurement department. And what they say is that they wanted to do innovation procurement, but an innovative procurement, not just a PCP, just a standard procurement with an innovation side. It took them 30% more time at a minimum for them. And they are already overwhelmed with the next generation procurement. So regarding the scaling up, I think the major bottleneck is the time of the procurement department. And that's very hard because it's a structural problem, which basically requires leadership from the top. They are, no, you are doing this no matter what, even if it's 30% or I hire more people, right? So it is not, I think that at this stage we have the maturity enough to understand that innovation has to be part of the procurement. The problem is that the resources allocated for that are not enough. And that's very hard. That's very hard to solve, but obviously we need to put in thoughts about how to do that. But I just wanted to say that in.
I think we will also have an opportunity to hear a bit more about case studies in the latest second part of the conference today. Thank you for that comment, Jorge. Yeah, I will stop here because otherwise. I mean, Louise was giving me an evil eye already. No, that was a joke. But I will stop here. I will thank you again for this talk. And I will give and I will give the mic to Robert to summarize this part.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you all the discussants. How much time do we have for this? Because I took a lot of notes and I understand that we're running short of time. 5 minutes? Okay, I can do that. Okay, so it's really my takeaways. Pardon me if I unintentionally neglect or oversee something which is really of crucial importance. We will definitely put this in writing and share it with you. So and complement it with all our internal notes. So first, we should definitely put innovation procurement higher on the political agenda. It's not a seasonal thing. It's something to stay. Innovation procurement still oftentimes is kind of forgotten instrument to drive innovation forward. Bottom-up approaches is definitely encouraged. That was mentioned in one of the interventions, and I also like the saying or the principle that we do not try to convince disbelievers at first, but work with those who are willing to take the change. And also, okay, let me change here. We should start from the needs. That's of course not the novelty, but it's being conveyed in various interventions. So really starting from needs, cutting the red tape, and even forgetting about the theoretical concepts and really striving for the innovation. Co-financing is co-financing or de-risking activities is one way which could unlock a lot of innovation procurement activities potentially. And also, what I took, for instance, from the intervention of Urban Agenda is the recommendation about encouraging creation of a pretender ecosystem. It was the one which resonated personally with me, and also take into consideration, of course, again, specific needs that are on the table. There are risky moves. We know that that have serious implications. But still, also what Louise you mentioned, and I really liked it. It's that currently we are in the mindset of compliance-driven procurement rather than value creation procurement. So we're putting on first the legal stuff, which is right and which is. But it has also backdrops with it. But if we put on the primary seed, the value creation, maybe we will unlock a whole new world of opportunities. Yes, we mentioned also the new European Parliament, European Commission, old directive on public procurement. So that's something that offers definitely ground for upgrades. There was a quote that I really loved. At some point, innovation expires. So that also is related with the directives that we currently have in place. And the last maybe that I remember from Vasilis is that procurement officers should be included in strategic decision making of organizations to make the process more resilient and maybe even efficient and effective. These are my personal takeaways. Of course, there will be more. We will put it nicely in a digestible way, document and share it all with you. Thank you very much, Louise.
Thank you very much, Robert. It's on camera. I don't know about you, but I've got quite a few of these little sticky notes, which I'm going to pass to one of our colleagues who's feeding our document of golden nuggets. So if you have any, please don't hesitate to share them with us. They will be very useful for our reporting. What I'd like to do now is invite our second keynote speaker up to the podium, or to stand where I'm standing, depending on what your preference is. Carmen Laplaza Santos is from the European Commission. She's Health Innovations and Ecosystems Head of Unit at DG Research and Innovation. If you would like to position yourself there and make sure the mics are suitable for you, over to you. Thank you very much. You need that, yes.
Thank you. Let me see if I manage to move this. Yes. All right, so good morning to everybody. I'm happy to be here in this discussion. Already lots of learnings and ideas. So maybe just to frame that I represent here the research and innovation, but the healthcare field, right? So I work in a unit where our main objective is the uptake of innovation in healthcare. So we are funding research and innovation projects, but we are also doing a lot of actions in order to incentivize the uptake of these innovations. And obviously, innovation procurement is one of our instruments. So first of all, before starting talking about our experience with innovation procurement in healthcare, I would like to explain why we are doing it. And I think, as Vasilis was mentioning, it's since a while that we are explaining these kind of things, but I think the non-believers are getting smaller and smaller. And proof is the inclusion of innovation procurement in important political documents that will frame are supposed to frame the work of the Commission in the future, like the LETA report that you might have heard about, where innovation procurement is mentioned, and many other documents like that. I would like also to praise the presidency event that the Belgian organized, and I thought it was very nice, this comparison that was done at the point with the difference that can make for a small actor to receive 1 million as a grant or 1 million in the context of pre-commercial procurement or public procurement of innovation. I thought it was a brilliant example to identify the power of the instrument. But anyway, so from a research and innovation perspective, obviously, usually we fund the supply side. We incentivize researchers, companies in order to be innovative. And with this instrument, with the use of innovation procurement, we are trying to do the opposite. We are trying to incentivize the procurers to tell what their needs are in case they need innovation. And that's very important. It's a change of game, because by doing this, we can open new business opportunities, because suppliers, if they do not know that, for example, important procurers do need innovation in an area, if they don't know that, they might not invest in that. Right? So by doing this, we are helping developing new business opportunities, and obviously, as you see there, very good incentives also for the public sector, because it helps them to modernize and improve the quality and efficiency of public services at a reasonable price, because that allows to share also the cost of investing in products that are not yet in the market. But it's very important also from a perspective of the European policy, because what is clear is that next Commission, well, clear, of course, I don't have a magic, but I think I'm not lying if I tell you that there is a high likelihood that we will talk a lot about competitiveness, dependence, sovereignty. So we are a scientific powerhouse in Europe, right? I think this is acknowledged by everybody. And at the same time, we have a big capacity of the public purse to help bringing this innovation into commercialized solutions. This is a problem that has been acknowledged that needs to be tackled. So the use of instruments like innovation procurement can certainly help. So I wanted to ask, before talking a lot about this instrument, who has been involved in pre-commercial procurement projects funded by the European Commission as procurer here? Anybody? Okay. And not as procurer, as any member of the consortium? Okay, all right. So I see that there is already some knowledge and that some of you have been courageous enough to launch yourself in this supposed to be very complicated. And maybe it's complicated, but I think the experience this decreases the complexity, and I will try to convince you of the value added of doing that. So we have two main instruments, pre-commercial procurement and public procurement for innovation. They are complementary and they are mandatory use of, value-based procurement principles are mandatory. So the public procurement of innovation has been less used by us in the context of health. Even though we have some successful experiences, but we have used it less. It is when a product is almost in the market, just needs to have some demand in order to have the public sector acting as the first buyer. And then the pre-commercial procurement, which is when there is still research and development needed, and it can be at very different TRL levels. So here we are funding from low to high TRLs, but we do it in a competitive phase. So it's very important that when there is the identification of a need by the public procurer, it's important to still have the possibility to have competing solutions before allowing the procurer to decide in which solutions he wants to invest massively or at large scale. Very important to mention what it is in the left part about the open market consultation. That's a very important part of the pre-commercial procurement that we prefer that it's done before launching the, well, actually it's not that we prefer, it is compulsory to do it because otherwise it doesn't make sense to launch the tendering without knowing what the market situation is. So, as I said, most of our experience is around pre-commercial procurement, and in this slide you summarize the reasons why it's an important instrument to foster innovation. I forgot to mention that in healthcare, obviously, it is a very powerful tool to embed innovation. First of all, it's a very conservative sector, and second, in Europe it represents more than 70% of average of public spending. So if we want to bring innovation to healthcare, it's very important that we go through the use of public procurement. So by using the instrument of pre-commercial procurement, you de-risk innovation, you steer development to your own needs, and there are many different advantages by which you help really modernize the public sector. So we have used it already since a while. Actually, it's since FP7 already. And we are using it regularly. There are regularly topics that come out around healthcare. In total, around more than 120 million euros of contribution, which is nothing compared to the whole budget for health in Horizon Europe, but which is not minimal when you look at the overall amount that has been spent in innovation procurement. We hope, as Livet was saying, that these amounts will increase in the future, but it's already a good basis to extract some conclusions. We have 9 ongoing projects currently that you see in this slide. Actually, ICAR, which is the first one, is almost final, so I think it's going to be closed in the next weeks. I would summarize by saying that out of the 9, we have 7 in the field of integrated care, different dimensions, but integrated care, and 2 in the field of personalized medicine and next generation sequencing. And I want to make this distinction so that you see that this instrument does not necessarily need to be used for the development of digital tools. It can really be adapted to many different research and development needs. Those projects are advancing quite well, and I must say that we have also learned on the experience how to facilitate their use and their impact. We have a lot of finalized projects, first finalized in 2016, and every year we have new finalizing. And that's, I mean, if you are interested in knowing what we have funded in the field of healthcare, I'm sure you will get the slides afterwards, and you can see that we have fund from projects dealing with mental health to projects dealing with pain management, elderly care. Many different pieces of healthcare provision have been tackled. And we have beautiful examples. You probably have heard already about Alea. It's one of the first launch, but actually I wanted to mention it because it represents how these instruments are complementary: pre-commercial procurement and public procurement for innovation. A group of 4 hospitals launched, leading hospitals in Europe, launched a pre-commercial procurement because they needed to be able to follow better the patients at risk in intensive care units. And in a very short period of time, 1 year and a half, they managed to have already a solution that they deployed in lower scale, and that afterwards translated into a bigger group of procurers that purchased the solution, well, did anything that was necessary in order to ensure the large scale commercialization, certification, regulation, all these kind of things was done afterwards with the public procurement for innovation that led to the really large commercialization of the tool. And important to mention as well that the 3 procurers that participated in the 3 suppliers that were successful in the last phase of the pre-commercial procurement have all successfully commercialized their solutions. What I wanted to say that because it's a really important tool in order also to support small actors and innovators. We have other examples, but for the purpose of time, I will move. So impact, yeah, in this slide you have seen the impact that we have identified. Actually, it's Lieve and her team who have done an amazing work in order to follow very closely the impact of all the projects in health, but also in other sectors. And I would like to mention 3 in particular that seem very important to me. Is the opening road to market for new players. Innovation happens often at the level of small players. This instrument supports and helps them to get to the market. And the comparison between normal procurement and public procurement of innovation is huge. We go from 30% to 70%. So it is really very, very encouraging. And also one very important aspect is the stimulation of the cross-border company growth. So this is also important for the supply side, how this instrument allows them to access to a much bigger market. And the commercialization success rate significantly increased. And last, I was saying that we will talk a lot about sovereignty. And this is a particular aspect that I would like to reinforce in the use of pre-commercial procurement, is that because it does not have to comply with the European procurement rules or national procurement, well, national, yes, but not European, there is the possibility to impose some criteria regarding that the activities need to be done in Europe. So close to 100% of the research and development activities are done in Europe. And this is a very important point as well. So we have got some general conclusions, recommendations, as some of you have already mentioned, and nothing new, but important to remind that the main advantage of this instrument is how it facilitates the dialogue and the interaction between supply and demand. This is the most important part. For the supply, that the understanding what the customer need is really an important competitive advantage, but also for the demand side to be understood. So what this means that when you prepare a pre-commercial procurement, you need to ensure that the clinical teams, if you are working in health, but I guess it's applicable to other domains, are available to interact all over the process with the suppliers. Which means that at the origin of these projects, I tend to believe that it's better to have already the commitment of the procurement departments, but also the commitment of the clinical sites. It cannot only be started as a sort of innovation project from the innovation departments. We have seen that in the past. It's nice, but it's not going to have the impact that we search for. So it's very important to ensure you want to go ahead with a project, great, but ensure that you have the actors that you need to ensure it is impactful. And the availability of the clinical staff is the more important in the field of health. Capacity building, culture of innovation has already been mentioned. Another important part, thorough preparation. Open market consultation, preparatory tenders, identification of the common needs. It's not like, hey, let's get 5 million from the European Commission to do a project, let's see afterwards what we will do. No, you need to agree between buyers what are the needs that you are trying to satisfy. We have already closed projects because of that reason in the past. I mean, close, you know, without letting them finish. Yeah, important also that the instrument pre-commercial procurement only covers part of the process. There are things that you need to do afterwards. Important to know it because otherwise it can create frustration. So, you know, in healthcare it's a field extremely regulated, certification, regulation. These things take time, clinical studies, clinical trials. So you need to ensure that you have captured the whole range of activities that you need to do. Oops. It's not moving. I know the conclusions are important, but I have more interesting news for you. No. Ah, okay. We have a lot of supporting action. So some of the things that were requested by the prior panel, at least in the field of healthcare, we have really acted on that. We have coordination and support action, Core Procure for Health, that is working precisely on the widening on the use. And some representatives are here. So if you have questions, you could always ask them. Jorge was there, but then EAFIP, this is not specific on healthcare, but is doing a lot to support the capacity building. As regards Procure for Health, for procurers, you can join the community, and they are doing very important fields like open market consultations already. They have identified 4 common needs that emerge between the large community of procurers that they have, and they are actively preparing the open market consultations to identify whether it makes sense to go for a innovation procurement afterwards together or not. So there are still two to be organized in June and in September in the context of their work, and they are also doing a lot of twinning activities for this widening aspect. European Innovation Council, I will not say anything because Vasilis is there and Bertrand is there. They are also doing a lot to support both demand and supply side to incentivize the use of the instrument. Particularly nice, this new kid on the block that you probably cannot read, but they are going to fund the possibility to pilot under risk innovation for suppliers, putting them in contact with the demand side. And this is the most important part because we have a new funding opportunity. I don't have a lot of time to talk about that. Most likely I have already spent a lot of time. But the most important is the little line that is in the bottom, because we did an info day very recently, which is recorded, and there Lieve and the project officer policy officer who developed this topic did an amazing job in explaining all the details that you would need to know in case you want to submit an application about the knowledge of the instrument, but also about the policy context. 15 million euros, and what we want to tackle is the greening of the healthcare sector. Why? Because healthcare sector is one of the biggest polluter in the world. 5% average of the greenhouse emissions are coming from healthcare, and in industrialized countries, it's even 8%. This sector has been a little bit protected for very good reasons, but now it's time that this is tackled, because by becoming greener, you can also become more sustainable and more efficient. So these are not kind of contradictory. So we want to help procurers to, in case they need innovation in order to become greener, we want to help them. As you see, it's a very broad topic, because it's not only considering the direct impact, but also the direct and indirect, and tackling also the supply chain, which is 3/4 or 2/3 of the greenhouse emissions. As I told you, we are. Well, maybe first to tell you that indeed, obviously, this. It's very important to know that we are not going to fund greening activities that could apply to any kind of sector. because that could be funded with other funds. Here, we want to fund projects that are really specific to the healthcare sector, even if, of course, the adaptation of solutions that have been done in other sectors to be somehow applied to healthcare, that could be within a scope if there is research and development needed. But again, if you have specific questions, the info day is really available to everybody. But very important to say that we have learned, and what we want is to foster the adoption. We are doing this not to fund more research and development in healthcare. We have many instruments to do so. We want really to foster the uptake of innovation. And that's why we want some commitment from the procurement side, from the procurers, that if the solution that will be developed is successful, if one of the solutions is successful, there is a commitment for the adoption. And that's why we are asking for some specific documents in order to really give proof of this commitment. This is new. It was not requested before. And we are also giving the possibility to have the deployment, to think about the deployment either in a fast track, so already to deploy, to acquire during the lifetime of the pre-commercial procurement, or to do it through a normal pre-commercial procurement with the 3 phases. And well, that allows you as well to buy some limited quantities of what has been developed. But if you want to go for a large scale procurement, you could need to follow with a public procurement of innovation, a negotiated procedure. It would have to be done out of the remit of the pre-commercial procurement. Nevertheless, if you would like to do it already in the context of the PCP, you have this fast track possibility that I'm sure many people have questions, but again, in the info day, all the answers are there. And that's all from my side. Thanks a lot for your attention, and let's hope that you will all use more innovation procurement in the future.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Can you take one question or comment from the floor? And thank you also for that final comment, which ties in very much with discussions that I've had in recent weeks with colleagues from the Dutch Ministry of Defence, this transition between the innovation and then the actual procurement being very problematic. So it is cross-sectoral. One brief comment, one question from the floor? Or conversations over lunch, which might be easier. Conversations over lunch.
Everybody's hungry.
So much. Are you staying for lunch?
For lunch, yes.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. Thank you again, Carmen. Next is Marlene. There you are. Please come on up. Do you prefer to stand here or behind the podium? Okay. It's worth adjusting the microphone. There you go. There's the. Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll Here we are. I have the very thankless spot of keeping you from your lunch today, but I'll make it quite snappy, and I'll hopefully make it interesting, and I hope you approach me during lunch. We were talking about public procurers, their need for more resources, their need for more skills, and for more ability to collaborate. And innovation can only happen in collaboration. That is something that we have seen over many years of doing innovation procurement. It's not something you do alone at your desk. It's something you need to communicate, and you need allies to do innovation procurement. And sometimes those allies might be missing in your own public authority at the moment, but they might be coming. And you need to find those allies elsewhere. And that's one of the ways how you can find those allies is to join one of the big buyer groups that have been set up through an initiative by DG Grow. This is actually the 3rd phase of this initiative, so it has proven to work quite well and has been expanded in the 3rd phase So it's super small, but you will again get the slides and you'll be able to talk to me later in any case. We now have 10 of these big buyer groups. Some of those have been working together for 5 or 6 years, so they really have been able to make great collaborative strides in innovation procurement, and some of those groups are brand new. All of those groups are waiting for you to join them. We have just started this phase in February, so you are still very welcome to join these groups. Just to give you a bit of an idea what we would be doing, I mean, you're not by any means meant to do all of this in the group. This might be pretty scary otherwise. But the idea is that it's driven by the needs of the buyers that are in the group. You are in the driver's seat saying, what is it that we need? Do we want to give recommendations to the European Commission, which is what one of my groups is doing currently? Do we need guidance? Do we want to do a joint market engagement? Do we want cross-border procurement? All of these are possibilities, and you have some very skilled people supporting you in that. And well, that is BME, my organization. That is the colleagues from Eurocities and the colleagues from ICLE. And of course, we have DG Grow as a service, as our contracting authority in the back. So where can you find us? You can find us on the public buyer community, which is the one-stop shop for everything public procurement that the Commission has set up. And you can also email us, and you can also find me during lunch. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. And I'm glad that it was happy accident that we put you in the session before lunch so that people have a chance to catch up with you and ask after lunch. But I shall remember that. That's my learning for another time. Please, can I remind you, if you have any of these golden nuggets, pass them to someone who can put them in our shared document. Can I also remind you, if you have a moment, to have a quick glance at the persona cards, because we will be using those for part 2 after lunch. And we are slightly adjusting the schedule. We're starting lunch a bit late, and we will come back a little bit early. So please, can we reconvene at 1 o'clock? Thank you for a great morning, and see you over lunch.
Just one more thing. Sorry, before the clap.
Danielle.
If you have not registered, if you have not signed up, please sign up so we can have your official attendance.
Yes, and we will be able to share presentations and so on, but we also need it for other reasons as well.
Enjoy lunch. Bon appetit.
Bon appetit. Eet smakelijk.